Hi, I'm Bob Tabor with LearnVisualStudio.net. We're going to wrap up hands-on lab number 6 by implementing the setting that we've allowed the user to set in the preferences for our app. It's pretty straightforward, but it'll teach us how to retrieve a value from the Windows App Storage application data object that we learned about in the previous lesson. Also, we're going to learn how to retrieve that value from within our default.js file. So without further ado, let's jump into lab number 6, exercise 3, implementing the preference. And so the first thing that we're going to want to do is to open the default.js and add the following statement, because we want to work with this namespace, this object, just like we did in the previous lesson. So here we are at the very top. We're going to go do that. In fact, here, just to keep things tidy, let's put it down here. That's where we're aliasing almost everything else, so that makes a lot of sense. All right, next up, what we want to do is add the following statements to the activated event handler just after the statement that reads if args detail kind equals activation kind launch. All right, and so if you take a look in the activated event listener, event handler, right after that line of code, right before we look for the previous execution state that we learned a little bit earlier, this is where it wants us to paste it in. I've already made a little room for it, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-C on my keyboard. So here we're implementing that remember where I was functionality. So if it's enabled and roaming settings contains a history, then apply it to go back to where the user was before. So it's just like the feature that we implemented whenever we were just storing off the state of the app before the app was terminated, or suspended then terminated. But now we can turn that on and off as needed, so that no matter whether you were terminated or you shut it down yourself, whatever the case might be, you can always have that option available to you. Pretty neat. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else we need to do. Oh yeah, one last thing. So add the following statements to the end of the app on checkpoint handler near the bottom of the default.js. All right, so you'll remember this, where we were already saving off the history, but now what we want to do is also, if remember where I was is enabled, write the history to the roaming settings so it can be restored later. There we go. So here we get to the app data, which again is simply Windows storage application data, to the roaming settings, and the specifically we want to work with the remember setting. And it looks like what we saw in the previous lesson, just the sticky, making that option on the toggle switch sticky or not. And if it is true, then we want to go ahead and save off into history the nav history. Okay, great. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and I think we just need to run the app now, right? Okay, and there is one important instruction here, that make sure that remember where I was is still on. If not, turn it on, and then you want to close the app by swiping down from the top of the screen or pressing Alt F4. Do not close the app with Visual Studio's stop debugging command. So we want to actually quit the app. We're not going to let it just continue on in suspended mode. We want it to actually end. And so we can take control. Yes, Windows does have a say in controlling when apps are need to be terminated, but we still have some options in that regard. So let's do this. There's a couple different ways we can go about this. Let's start by let's go ahead and run the app. Okay, let's go to one that we haven't gone to before, German meatballs. Great. All right, and so now what we're going to do is start at the very top, and when I put my mouse cursor up to the top of the screen, or if I were to use my finger, I'm going to be able to pull down on this app, and when I do, and just drop it at the bottom of the screen, it will force the app to terminate. Okay, so now let's go back in and let's see here. What are the instructions now? Return, wait a few seconds for the process to end. It generally takes about 10 seconds, then start up the app again. Okay, so we will see Visual Studio drop out of debug mode on its own, and when it does, I think we're safe to go again. So now let's go ahead and rerun the app, and now we come back to German meatballs. Outstanding. This actually works. All right, so let's see what the next instruction was, and just in case there's something else we need to do here. Then we want to turn that off and try that again, and it shouldn't work. Okay, so that's probably a pretty good check, just to make sure that we're going to get back to this here. Let's stop the app and let's run it again. All right, great. And so now let's turn it off. Settings, preferences, and now we're going to turn it off. Go back, and now let's navigate somewhere else in the app. So this time let's give everybody a shot here. All right, I like tiramisu. Let's go with that. Great. So we would not expect to come back to tiramisu. All right. So let's do that same technique again, where we either hit Alt F4 or we're going to put our mouse cursor or finger at the very top and pull down, drop, and now wait for Visual Studio to stop on its own. Any moment now. There we go. And so now when we relaunch the app, we would not expect to come to tiramisu, and we don't. It works. Okay, so we're making great progress. Our app feels more and more like a real Windows Store app. In the next lesson, we're going to learn how to liven up the app start page with tiles and notifications. So we'll see you there. Thank you.